Alright, I'm going to show you some basing techniques that I came up with, not on my own. I've viewed many other videos and talked to many other people about this kind of stuff, and this is just something that happened to work for me. And I like the look of it. I haven't seen anything in person quite like this. But what this is tile grout mixed with Liquitex modeling paste. You just put it on wet with a palette knife or whatever tool works for you, and I'm just gonna mix this stuff together and show you what I came up with, or how I came up with it. It's pretty simple, and here's a kind of a finished product of that. Hopefully the lighting's better than on my phone, but so I got some rocks and texture and a little bit of color. So that's going to be the finished product, and I'm going to be applying this idea to these STL files that I printed out from Phoenix Miniatures. It's just got this base, and then just fits in like so. And I'm going to be applying a texture to this, so we don't just have this smooth or these 3D printing lines, visible. Just going to cover all that up, and then eventually I'm going to be painting it and creating some nice details on there, and possibly applying some grass to it. So I got my grout. This is sanded grout. It's got sand particles in it, and when it gets all gritty and kind of damp, it looks more like rock. It's kind of cool. And this is added to it just to give it a little more, so it doesn't get so flaky. Kind of seals it in a little bit better, and when you apply paint and fix it to it, it'll turn hard as a rock. So let's get started. Just gonna apply put some modeling paste. If you're gonna do a lot of this, you should probably get a bigger container, but I'm just gonna be doing a small example here. So it's kind of like a half and half ratio. I find that works fine. Get yourself a spoon that you're not too concerned about. That's a little too much. This stuff gets everywhere, and do not breathe it in. I'm sure it is not good for your lungs. So wear a mask. Masks are good in this hobby or profession, whatever you want to call it. Okay, that might be a little too much, but we'll find out when we mix it. Just get an eyedropper, drop some water in there. Not too much, maybe 2 squirts. Alright. I got grout on my lid. That's not good. I'll wash that out later. I'm just going to be mixing this together. And if you smell an ammonia smell, that's just the modeling paste. It's not like a chemical reaction or anything. It just happens to smell like ammonia. But to me, it's not too strong. But I have a high tolerance to chemical smells, I guess. So I got this muddy, sandy texture now. And I kind of like that because I kind of want a rocky kind of look. I tend to prefer that just because it looks good from far away rather than a really fine sandy look. I just kind of get bored of that after a while, so And then you just apply it directly to the plastic like so. Just get a big chunk on there. This is a pretty big space. Let me put the lid back on this so I don't spill it. There we go. I think I'm gonna apply a little bit more water. It's a little too pasty. Because I do like to have some smoothness to some areas. There, just a little bit more water. Okay. And my goal here is just to apply this as thinly as possible. I don't want to get carried away putting a huge thick glob of stuff on here that's more likely to break off. Keeping it thin kind of helps it dry faster and more consistent. Yeah, I got plenty on here. You can trim the edges off pretty easily using a blade or sandpaper. A lot like laying down concrete. Okay. Then you want to create kind of a natural texture, not too crazy, and kind of want to avoid the frosting chocolate brownie kind of look. And that's just by, might want to look at some photographs of ground, but I think I've done this enough times where I feel pretty comfortable doing it just from memory. Just create some waviness, like water's been trickling down the earth surface here. You might be wondering, well, this looks like mud. Well, yeah, it's mainly just because of the specular highlights. And that can be taken care of with paints and fixatives. And you can even draw little lines in it. Of course, when these are tiled together, you don't want the curves to be mismatched, or the textures to be kind of mismatched. So you kind of want to make it as organic and random as possible. You don't want a pattern. Also consider the scale of your game. You know, if you're doing 28mm or 54 or whatever you want to do. I think this texture is small enough, but this is just going to be an example. So I'm going to let that dry, and then we'll get on to the next part. Be right back.